My fingers were nearly wrapped around the jar of honey when a hand snuck beneath mine, and I found myself grasping the enormous paw of a stranger. I stared at our interlocked fingers and felt a flicker of irritation. It was the last of the big jars on the market table. I'd had a long morning working with the Dutch donuts at the oliebollen stall, and I wanted to go home. With my honey. "Sorry, I was just getting this one," I began in my most people-pleasing tone. "I've promised this to the lady over here," a deep voice said simultaneously. Our hands were still touching when I looked up and made eye contact with the owner of the giant claw. My stomach did an involuntary whoosh. The honey stealer was a knockout. Of course he was. I should let go of the jar. I couldn't be sure if I was too befuddled to move my hand or just determined to be the purchaser of the honey. But on reflection, it's a regrettable moment on my part, particularly as I was the customer and, I now realized, he was on the selling side of the market bench. The honey stealer's eyebrow quirked and the corner of his lip twitched. I colored with indignation. Knockout honey stealer was now silently laughing at me. Excellent. "I've promised this to the lady over here," he repeated. He was far too handsome. Someone life probably worked out perfectly for. And he was now the target of all my resentment for perfectly worked out lives. A flash of annoyance had me imagining wrenching the jar out of his manly hand before darting through the crowd and all the way home with my loot, laughing gleefully. The Adonis gave what sounded like a surprised chuckle, and I realized I'd begun dragging the jar in my direction, so we were literally in a tug of war, a tug of jar, if you like. I came to my senses and let my hand return to my side. My stomach did a secondary whoosh when he flashed me a truly heart-stopping smile before whisking the honey away and moving out of my view to the other end of the crowded stall. Feeling foolish, discombobulated, and defeated, I turned and let myself be swallowed by the flow of bodies moving through the busy market. Sans honey. I was at least 20 stalls on, wondering why on earth someone needed to have such piercing blue eyes and perfectly crafted features, and feeling quite put out by the whole episode when I felt a warm, familiar hand on my shoulder. "You forgot your honey." He was smiling again. There should be rules against brandishing those sorts of attributes so freely. "We had plenty more in the van. I was about to get you some, but you disappeared. Here, my gift to you." My hand rose to meet his, and when my fingers encircled the jar, he didn't let go. My heart began to hammer. Thank you," I stammered. "I'll be at the stall next week if you need some more." He was still grinning as he moved backwards through the crowd. I was fixed to the spot with my jar of honey. "It was lovely to meet you," he called, now at least 15 bodies between us. "It was—" He'd already disappeared before I could work out what to say. I was too mortified by the whole episode to consider going back to pay for the honey, let alone ever visiting his stall again. Back then, I was way too cynical to recognize good things when they were right in front of me. Besides, he was far too handsome. Far too handsome. I decided never to think about him again.